don't know, just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real with Najeh Wilkins, presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. We got a fun episode for you guys today. We're going to talk to Luke Winstel from Clemson Sports Talk. Also does ESPN Plus work for basketball and hoops for Mercer. Recruiting analyst. He does a little bit of everything, man. So we're going to talk to him about his take on Clemson, transfer portal going on right now, any guys that they are targeting, and then obviously talk about some of the state championships, what he's most looking forward to. But we're going to wait a little bit till he gets on. Some big updates around the state. Several things I wanted to shout out. Obviously, Reese Fountain's the main one coming onto the show today, the main headline. He committed officially to East Tennessee State. I did an article on this on ScoreATL.com. Passed for over 11,000 yards in his career, over 100-plus touchdowns. Really great career. Led them to back-to-back 11-win seasons for the Rome Wolves. Had a really outstanding year. So that's my top headline. He just recently got the offer from East Tennessee State. And committed within less than 24 hours. Also had offers from Wofford, Georgia Southern, and Jackson State University. So big time right there. Another big headline I saw was Peachtree Ridge head coach Matt Helmrich doing a magnificent job with the program. He won Region 7, 7A Coach of the Year. Now, my prediction did come up short. It did, because I had them winning the region. Norcross ended up winning the region. But I still think they had a magnificent year. Big time turnaround. Yeah, it was technically a tie, but I came close, so I do know a little bit about football. But, yeah, it was a very thrilling year for them. I think they're going to be able to build a lot from this past season. They're going to lose some of their seniors, but you're going to have Darnell Kelly coming back, Dorian Barney coming back as well, the standout cornerback for Peachtree Ridge. So they had a really outstanding year. Can't wait to see what they build. I'm definitely going to have to go this offseason and look at all the region alignments officially and just look at 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, because now we have no more 7A. So we definitely going to have to take a very good look at that. Also, a shout out to Carrollton's outside linebacker / edge, CJ Kelly. He picked up a Arkansas State offer. He tagged me into it. I think that was pretty big time for him moving forward. Just being able to land that kind of an offer, D1, and going forward. And like I said, Carrollton, really good football team. Coach Joey King does a good job. They're going to need somebody to be a good outside linebacker / edge rusher. They just need an impact player to kind of come in, get them some good playing time. Obviously, the team's really good, but they just need somebody. They need a disruptor, right? You need somebody that can kind of make a difference. And I'm looking forward to see what he's going to be able to do next season. So he picked that up recently, so shout out to him. Other big news that I saw as well is going to be John Senius, right? I've been high on him all year long, but he's done some things that hasn't been done in a while. Craig, you're going to have to fact check me here, but I seen a post from Route King. It said 50 receptions for 112 yards, or 1,112 yards. It says first 1,000-yard receiver ever at Grayson. Is that true?
Probably.
Of all the talent, they've never had more than a 1,000-yard receiver? No, get out of here.
Running the ball, yeah.
Really? So kind of like Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. That is interesting. So, I mean, that's a big sign right there. I was shocked. That's why I had to confirm with Craig, because Craig's been following high school football for like 12-plus years, and I was kind of shocked to see that. But a magnificent season. Apparently the first ever 1,000-yard receiver at Grayson. Big time year for him. He had 4 kickoff returns for touchdowns this season, 3 of 99 yards. They're the longest ever by a Grayson player in their program history, and 75-yard kickoff return as well. 412 total yards in kickoff returns, 1,524 all-purpose. So setting record. Shout out to you, John Seniors, for what you did this season for the Grayson Rams. You guys were right there. It just came up a little bit short, but I thought that was magnificent what he was able to do obviously, with the program. But I'm going to check my phone real quick, guys, to see if Luke is ready to go. He told me he had just got home, so I'm going to check this real quick. Okay, no updates yet, so we're going to kind of hang around with that. While we're waiting for Luke, we're going to go ahead and do a tell of the tape. Go ahead and break down one before he comes on. Let's look at – you see Luke? Okay, let's see. So we can bring him on. Hey, Luke, what's going on?
Hey, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I know you're a busy guy, so I definitely appreciate you taking the time to come on today and just talk football, talk a little bit about Clemson.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And right now it's interesting with Clemson, looking at high school recruiting, looking at the portal. I'm sure we'll dive into some of that.
Yes, sir. Certainly. So I want to get your thoughts just at the top of the show. I want you to talk about Grayson and Milton, right? You were at the game. You called 3 or 4 games for Grayson. You called along with David Bellamy. So just talk a little bit about that experience first and foremost. And what did you see out of that Grayson-Milton game that you called last Friday?
Yeah, 4 games over at Grayson. Working with Davin, he was one of my favorite players growing up. That's something I don't usually say. But, watching him, he was in college when I was in high school. So I was seeing him, sack people and do the dab after sacks, and now getting to work with him. He's transitioning into media while he's still playing, so still playing pro football over in the USFL and XFL and some of the spring leagues now that they've merged. He's continuing that, and working with him is always fun. He's got a lot of personality. So we've got these games, and the good part about it is Grayson's got this dominant front seven. So we're breaking it down. We're looking at how good this unit is, and they've been able to heat up quarterbacks and what they did to Dylan Raiola. And then Luke Nickel comes in, and he made it look easy. It wasn't easy, but he's been fantastic all season. I've been very impressed with the way that he distributes the ball, gets it out quickly, tight spirals. I think there was only one ball the whole game that wasn't really on the money for a receiver to get. So you look at Grayson, what they've done, Tyler Atkinson and his NIL deal, and the types of things that he has coming his way are spectacular to watch. But the way that they handled the Grayson defense, the Grayson pass rush, I was impressed. You mentioned John Senius, I heard, in the lead in there, and John's continued to catch the ball and show that he's going to be a big pickup for a Division I school at the receiver spot. Grayson's receivers are a bit underrated. J.D. Davis deserves a little more credit for what he's done at quarterback there, breaking Chase Bryce's passing record. So credit to Grayson on a great season, but Milton just had it. Their O-line, I'd heard they were good. They were even better than I thought they would be, holding the rush. When it was man-on-man, they were giving Luke Nickel a clean pocket. So can't say enough about the way Milton handled that game and how strong they look, especially with all their skill weapons that everyone talks about heading into a state title game.
For sure. I think a great recap there from you, Luke. And I got to ask you, I've been hearing some rumblings that potentially Milton has the best receiving core in the state. You've seen them. You've seen a lot of the teams this year. Would you agree with that statement? What's kind of your thoughts on that?
That's a tough one. There's so many good groups in Georgia. I think because – so C.J. Wiley, I saw him play in the spring in 7-on-7, and I knew he was good. Like, I talked about this on the broadcast. Really good player, really highly recruited guy. Like, you see him in the spring, you say, okay, I understand why Georgia's offered him and they're having him on visits, and I understand why these big schools are after him. Clemson's been hosting him, so I've gotten to write about him on that angle as well. Now it seems like he's taken a big step forward. Already really good, but now he's even better. So because he's emerged, DeBron Gatling, of course, going to Texas A&M, maybe. We'll see, with his recruitment, but it's a big name and someone that contributes a lot, has a lot of catches, leads the team in receptions, then Wiley in yards. And then as soon as you start to focus on the guys on the outside, the slot position to me, Esley is one that has been getting Division I offers for a while, so I'd heard the name. When I saw him make a couple of catches, it wasn't surprising. But Tristan Payne, the way that he stepped up, added depth to that group, all-region guy, like when you look at how well-rounded they are, the slot positions, then as soon as you think you've got the receivers covered, if a defense can even say that, then you've got Ryan G., the Auburn commit at tight end. And they didn't throw it to him a ton in the Grayson game, but there was one play where Luke rolled left, rolled right, and then threw back across the field, and Ryan G is just wide open, and it rumbles down inside the 20, and he provides that physical presence as a blocker. So there's a really good case for it. I'm trying to think, I know there's competitors. I know there's a lot of really good teams. I've liked some of the guys in Central Georgia at receiver that don't get quite as much publicity. But I think with what we've seen, that's taken the title right now for best receiver group. I'm sure somebody might tweet at me and say, and I'll say, oh yeah, that's a good one too. But I'm looking at what they have in the slot. Like the outside receivers are both big time power fives. The slot receivers can definitely both play Division I football. Tight end is big time power five. Quarterback is big time power five. The O-line, again, I'm just really impressed with the way they passed the ball. So, yeah, it's a long-winded answer for you, Najee, but I think I've talked myself into saying yes. Yeah.
I think you've convinced yourself.
I have. I just had to rethink it, break it all down for myself. And, okay, yeah, this is it. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've been talking about it in the office along with Craig, and Coach Reeves actually came out and said it. And me and him were thinking the same thing. We were like, well, if you look at it, every position, if you try to take down over the top, I mean, C.J. Wiley and DeBron can both get over the top. Then you got the slot receivers, Tristan Payne, as you mentioned, Mark Esley, who can do damage in the slot. And then you got kind of a safety valve, a safety blanket, obviously, with Ryan G. You could just depend on. It's a go-to weapon out there in the middle of the intermediate part of the field. So, I mean, they got a lot going. But I want to know, Luke, what state championship are you most looking forward to out of all these games?
I hate being the guy that gives the easy answer, but it's got to be 7A. I mean, this is must-see TV. These are two of the top teams in the country that we look at. Talent, I think for me, I might not have understood if I just hadn't seen how good they look right now. I wouldn't have understood how much of a chance I think Milton has in this game. I know a lot of people look at Walton, Jeremy Hiklinski. I'm guessing they're going to be favored by whoever's in charge of those metrics. And Walton's not to be underestimated, especially you look at quarterback and quarterback play, and you look at maybe certain groups that should have included Heklinski for player of the year in Georgia that didn't. I think he's absolutely been on that level. I think it'd be crazy to say no. And I saw him last year, another guy that we knew was good. Like, as long as you see him, you go out there and you say this is a good player. Another big step forward, I think. And with Heklinski, the athletes they have, 7A to me is the one that I look at, especially with the way Milton's playing. I'm like, maybe Walton's going to be favored, but Milton's got a really good shot. I felt this way about 6A last year. I didn't think people understood how well Gainesville was playing, and they didn't beat Langston Hughes, but gave them a great run for their money. And I feel this way in 7A of there's probably going to be a lot of people out there that pick Walton in this game. But I'm thinking Milton's the type of team that, because they're hot, their quarterback is also top tier. I think we're going to look at some duel between Nickel and Heklinski as two of the bigger names in Georgia, but maybe not the 5-star names. So it's showing the depth of the quarterback position that we have this state, which we're very lucky to have. When you have good quarterback play, it makes these games a lot more watchable, and you're not just looking at maybe a defensive recruit and saying, oh yeah, but the offense is this and this. That when you're looking at guys, you're seeing some of the top level. So we're looking at Nickel and Heklinski dueling it out. That's a game I couldn't even pick a winner if I tried, because to me it just feels so close. It feels like Milton's one of those teams that they're not an underdog at this point in terms of the way that they can't. I think it's hard to sell yourself as an underdog now because you've accomplished so much, but I think at times they felt like one and felt like they have something to prove. It's a very hungry team, and I got to see that firsthand. So that to me is the game to watch. The other ones will all be interesting. I think on the flip side, 1A, when you've got Aaron Philo and Prince Avenue Christian against Swainsboro with DeMello Jones, some very high-end talent, Christian Garrett with Prince Avenue. I'll be on the sidelines working that one for radio. I'm helping to call that game. So that's one that I'm really looking forward to as well in terms of good quarterbacks, good skill players. There's going to be a bit of a duel there. So I think you get that all up and down. But really, to me, I'm on each side of the spectrum there. Those are probably the two I'm most excited for.
No, definitely. Those are going to be some good ones. And yeah, man, you can't sleep on Milton. I remember telling Craig, I was like, I know he was looking forward to a Walton Buford rematch, but I said early in the season, I said, what if Walton and Milton actually play come postseason time? I didn't say state championship, but I said, what if they play come postseason time? I said, I think that'd be a great matchup between those two. But here's my strong take on it, Luke. I think this game is going to be eerily reminiscent of, I don't know if you remember it, but Walton Mill Creek when that went down to the end. 44-41 victory for Mill Creek. They get the late touchdown from Hayden Clark to, I believe, Mikael Wood. I think it's going to be that kind of a game. Two really good teams. They're going to fill up the scoreboard. Both obviously have really good defenses that are underrated. But I think this is going to be just a great duel. And the matchup you should watch out for, too, is the running game, Luke, of Walton with Austin Williams and Makari Bodiford, both 1,000-yard runners against that really strong defensive linebackers that they have. They got Ja'Cory Stewart, who's a Kansas commit. They got Jack Lawson. They got A.J. Benton and Hayden Tumania. All four of those guys are really, really good. So I think that's going to be the matchup to kind of watch out for in that game, in addition to the quarterbacks. Obviously, it's quarterbacks first and foremost, but I think that's the second matchup you got to watch for.
Yeah, no, I know Bodiford. I saw him last year. I was like, really like watching him play. Someone that's explosive, finds the gaps really well. I think complements Hecklinski as well. You know, every quarterback's got to have a good run game. And I think Walton, for them, it almost feels like a given that they're going to have a run game to me. Like, every time I've seen them, yeah, they can run the ball. Yeah, they got it. You know, Hecklinski is going to make some big plays at quarterback, but also he's never going to say, oh, man, I wish I had more support in the run game. That's generally when I've seen Walton, that's what I've come away with of, yeah, those guys are going to take care of it, and they have, and credit to them for it.
Certainly. And then you brought up Aaron Philo of Prince Avenue Christian, so I want to get your thoughts. Do you think he'll be able to break Trevor Lawrence's record in the state championship? This is their fourth straight year there. They're looking to win their second consecutive title. Just what do you think the prospects of that and him being able to break that record and potentially win another state title?
Yeah, I was talking to one of the broadcasters yesterday. Chris Mooneyham's going to be calling that game on the radio, so we were talking through, and he was telling me, yeah, I think it's 300 yards and some change for Philo to get. And we kind of came to an agreement of we think there's a good chance that's going to happen, which is kind of wild to go into a state championship game and say, oh, yeah, the quarterback, yeah, 300, 350, sounds about right. Yeah, but that's what Philo is, and that's what he's been. Obviously it's 1A. Like, there's a little better opportunity to pick up big yards there. I think that's fair to say. And for Philo, yes, he's played that competition, but he's dominated it. He's done everything he can. He's been awesome. And to me, I look at it and say, there's a pretty good chance. I would lean more toward yes than no for sure on that. I'd say maybe 60, 70% chance he does get that record because of the way they run the offense. They want to get the receivers involved. They're going to get Philo's arm going early and often. They're going to lean on him. And we saw, for some guys, you say, on the big stage, what do they look like? Philo, we already know. We saw it last year. He's insane on the big stage. He's broken records in a state championship before. So to me, I'd say it's kind of wild to go into a game and say this high school quarterback is likely to throw for 300 plus. That's to me saying a lot, but for Philo, it's not saying a lot. He's just that good.
And just speak about that. We know how good he is. Just how impressive you've been with just their offense this season, right? They replaced 3 1,000-yard receivers from last year. Bailey Stockton, Ethan Christian, got a freshman stepping up big, Hudson Hill. He had over 150-plus yards, 2 touchdowns in their last win in the semifinals. Just how impressive you've been with just their playmakers being able to step up and playing in these pivotal roles and being able to, kind of be players that Philo can lean on.
Yeah, I think I got to see them practice, I guess, a little over a month ago now. And the thing that I really liked about what they do, obviously John Rick, the offensive coordinator, one of the better offensive minds in this high school game in Georgia, really has been there and done that at the college level, so he knows what aspects to bring to the guys. And also, I think for Aaron Philo, he's a quarterback that makes his receivers better. But one of the types of positions where at Prince Avenue Christian, they were like, yeah, this guy's doing well, and I'm checking numbers, and okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, Philo's getting them involved, but they've got guys that are stepping up. It's the Prince Avenue offense. It's a well-oiled machine. So even when people graduate and move on, they've got the next players ready. I think Coach Rick deserves a lot of credit for what he's done there. I think he runs a really high-level program offensively on that side of the ball with Coach Vandegrift. So it's no surprise why they're successful. You got, of course, Aaron Philo back there, and I think the way that he trains and he's so detail-oriented and the way that John Richt is able to hold him accountable to a college level standard because they have an understanding that that's in Aaron's future and they get the details really well refined. And I've gotten to see that at practice, even simple conversations they have of, this is how we're going to approach this, or this is how we're going into the next period. Those things to me have stood out of, okay, you've got a coach that knows what it takes at the collegiate level. He's holding his quarterback to a collegiate level standard. And then you're seeing it play out in the offense. You're seeing it with the receivers. I haven't been as close with that receiver group, but I see him catching these balls, getting open for Aaron, and it's one of those that just seems like a well-oiled machine to me. And I'll continue to, research and be looking into that as we go. And 1A and 2A games, I'll be really diving into these guys next couple of days.
For sure. And if you had to say, I know you've seen a lot of football this year, just who has been the most impressive team in GHSA, regardless of whatever classification you think in your eyes, and who's been kind of just the biggest surprise?
Good question. Okay. Let's see. Grayson definitely impressed me in the Buford win. I mean, that's one that immediately comes to mind. That's another easy pick, I guess you could say. So the thing to me with Grayson is we talked pregame with Coach Bryant about how do you handle Raiola and how do you handle the offense. I mean, really, you've got Power 5 guys everywhere. Just throw the ball up, and it's probably going to find its way to a Power 5 commit or 4-star. So he said, we're going to heat him up. We're going to make him see what Georgia sees. And we talked about that on the broadcast. And they heated up Raiola and the game plan. It's kind of funny to say this, but Grayson was calling some plays the way that I would call it in Madden of, all right, let's get some heat on the quarterback. And then offensively, let's go get some guys open on some deep routes. Let's move the ball. Let's get some chunk plays. And I love their offense to hurry up like crazy. I mean, that's just one of those things that when you look at how to beat Buford, hurry them up on offense and then heat up the quarterback on defense. And that's what worked. And it was still a slim margin, slim game, really tough team to beat. But for Grayson, that was one that stood out. Like, that's one of those games that a few years down the road, if we're on a sideline just chatting about like, oh, hey, did you see this player got drafted? Oh, I remember this game. That's, to me, one of the games that I'll be talking about for a while. So that's one of them. I think one of the more impressive players I've seen, I thought, was Josh Petty. When I went and saw him in October, he was playing at Athens Academy. He's depending on who you ask, a high 4-star or a 5-star offensive tackle. He's never, at least at the time when I interviewed him, had never given up a sack in his career. So that to me was pretty impressive to see him, and getting to see him in person. He's one that it just clicks. You're like, oh, yeah, he's just that type of guy. So dominant. And then defensively, I was like, you sure no one's recruiting you on the defensive side too? Because I think you might have potential there. So he was one of the more impressive prospects. Sometimes whenever you get to rivalry games, some of those will stand out and come in later in the season. But that's a player, and then that's a team that I think really stood out. Grayson, to me, was one that we knew they were going to win a playoff game or two, but to make the type of run they did, I thought was surprising. Big credit to the first-year coaching staff, a very young coaching staff. So that's probably where I'm going to stick with that answer. I'm trying to think through some of the other games this year. Yeah, I think that's where I'll go.
Okay, definitely not a bad way to go. I mean, obviously all those teams were great this year, and obviously they were a lot of fun to watch. But before we talk about actually Clemson, which we're going to get to in just a second, just how does your schedule look? Obviously, after, I know you're big on recruiting. Just how does your schedule look after the state championships are over? What's kind of next for you with, obviously, we're going to talk about the transfer portal and stuff like that, but what's next, like off-season wise, once you hit December and going into the spring?
Yeah, this is weird to say. I've started to realize now, I think this is my third full recruiting cycle that I've gotten to be involved with as a reporter. And now I've kind of gotten to the point where the spring is a little more fun to me. And I look at, we go and have a little bit of a lull in winter, but then we go straight into Under Armour, and then that launches 7-on-7 season pretty much after that. And to me, in terms of content creation, recruiting, interview content, talking to guys, getting to know people, like once we get into fall, things are so much tighter. But in the spring, you build the relationship. So then when it's tighter in the fall and people are harder to contact or people are busier, they'll still talk to you, or you'll still be able to have the type of relationship that you need to continue to do the job. So to me, it's one that, like, for the players, the real work happens in the off season, and then you see it play out in the regular season. For us, I've kind of started to see a little of that mentality in myself of, okay, I've gone a little harder each 7-on-7 season. I think I've got more plans than ever for 7-on-7 this year in terms of covering the Under Armour camp, launching into big 7-on-7 stuff. There's a few national events, Pylon that comes around here and there, and the Corky Kell 7-on-7 I think is a really good way in the summer to get a look at some of the teams and some of the passing offenses that we'll see. I've been impressed. Like, that's when I first really found out how good Colquitt County was through the air. I know some people might hit me on an earlier answer and say that Colquitt County might be the best receiver group in Georgia. 7-on-7 is what woke me up to that. They were playing at UGA and Collins Hill, I think, last summer. So that to me is a really good way to gauge especially because teams travel so much. It's one that, I wasn't able to get down there in the fall or in this part of the calendar, but they're coming up here now. So that helps me make sure that I get to see as many people as possible. And then summer, we get into June. Clemson hosts camps. They start offering players at the end of May and early June. So then that's really where the 2026 class comes up for me, and I start to look at who's the real targeted group of players for Clemson. So it all builds through that 7-on-7. You try to get to know everybody you can. Then the offers come out. Then fall, you have visits and OVs. But to me, that spring and early summer, Cam Newton 7-on-7 tournament's a huge one. So those kinds of things to me are the things that I focus on. I'm already planning for. I've got Senior Bowl coverage and Pro Day coverage on the draft side coming up as well. So it's a few things at once, covering basketball with commentary and eventually some soccer as well. So weaving all those things into it and continuing to, just kind of slide through the schedule. But I definitely prefer to be busy, and this is a fun time of the year.
Definitely. And speaking of Clemson, let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's just talk about first and foremost the transfer portal. Who do you think they'll target? Obviously, I saw they just lost two of their really good corners, but that kind of goes into my next question. I'm going to ask you about the freshman corners we'll talk about. But just who are they targeting now, just far as who they want to get?
Yeah, we'll get to the corners for sure. That'll be a good one. But in terms of the portal, the one offer so far is Alan Herron out of Shorter. He's an offensive tackle. He's a guy from College Park in Georgia. So some people have been familiar with him. And Herron, to me, is one that I'm not convinced Clemson will land. It's nice to see them put an early portal offer out to somebody, but he's very highly recruited. I'm not sure that Clemson's going to win that battle, so I'm looking at a few other options. And some of the ones I'm looking at, Keelan Rutledge is coming on campus. That's one that I think Clemson has a real shot to land. Middle Tennessee offensive lineman. Credit to, I want to say 24/7 Sports for reporting that one first. And Rutledge is one that I've been trying to, as it is with the portal, I'm not covering Middle Tennessee football. So when I see that, I'm like, typing up in the computer, like, let's find some highlights. What's his recruiting history? What's he done? Like, these names will come up, and I'm like, okay, I got like 10 minutes to be an expert before I get a question or I have to think about posting on Twitter, posting on a website. So that's why, like, Najeh, when you tweeted at me earlier this week about portal things, I was like, man, give me a second. I'm trying to figure it out. Like, the portal for Clemson it's so tough to figure out for most schools, but one of the ones I'm looking at personally, I have recently checked in with him, DJ Wesolak, a former 4-star edge at Missouri, and he's in the portal. Clemson needs edges. Clemson originally had been interested in Wesolak in the recruiting process. So there's some ties, but I've also found that that's an inexact science to say, they recruited him out of high school. Maybe they'll like him now. That seems to not be as exact of a theory as maybe I thought, or mean as much as I originally thought it would. So I've been learning the portal process as much as anybody, because last year I didn't really have to cover the portal. There wasn't stuff going on coming into Clemson. It was a lot of, this player's leaving Clemson, you write the article, and it's a player that I've covered for a year or two at least. So I can put down kind of my thoughts and what's going on, but now I'm like, now there might be people coming in. And quite frankly, if there's not people coming in, that's a big problem. And then that's something I have to talk about as well. Both lines of scrimmage are, O-line's not up to par for Clemson. That's for certain. The talent acquisition there is not been strong, and that's part of why there's been a coaching change and Matt Luke's come in. Defensively, a coaching change at defensive end. It used to be that I talked with Jason Priester. He works with one of the Clemson sites, and he said, people used to line up to come to Clemson. And then we're sitting there in a press conference room, like, naming all the 5-stars, and especially for me, like, big players from Georgia that I've either grown up watching or covering. And, they used to line up to come here. And now you're looking at, what happened to that? It's not there anymore. It's not that way. And it's nothing against the guys that are committed. Like, the players they have coming in are good. But there's also some thought of, you went from getting the number one player to position to guys that are not close to that. So not that they won't be good players. Don't get me wrong. Not trying to disrespect anybody, but it is just an honest fact of what's changed. And now they've made a change at that coaching spot. Chris Rump's coming in. He's been with the Minnesota Vikings. And now at the edge spot, you're losing David want to say Ojibwa is how you say his name. He's one of the freshmen that didn't make an impact last year, but he was one that could have competed for a spot, and not totally sure, what happened there in terms of his tie with Clemson, but he's in the portal now, and he's only at Clemson for 6 months. So we wish him the best, but that's a big spot that's come open. That's a former high ceiling 4-star recruit that's now in the portal. So edge is one that you're looking at too. So that's why I'm interested in Wesolak and guys like that. Of probably need to bring 1 or 2 in. You're losing Xavier Thomas. You're losing Justin Naskall. Those were your 2 opening day starters at the edge spots. Tamarian Parker is going to be really good at defensive end, but you got to have a rotation. You got to have help. There needs to be more than that. And same thing on the offensive line. You need a lot more. Keelan Rutledge, we said, from Middle Tennessee. Alan Herron from Shorter. I think Clemson's got a chance at some of the offensive linemen from small schools that are looking for Power 5 competition, looking to build with the Clemson brand, looking to get a big upgrade in terms of schools. And people talk about Clemson doesn't do a whole lot of NIL, but there's been some numbers, that dollar figures even, that have been reported by sites like Clemson Rivals that said, players are making at least 30 to 50,000 at Clemson, and then it kind of goes up from there. So those kinds of things to me they're looking for players that appeal on that side. I don't think they're getting into bidding wars. I don't think they're going for these big time former 5-stars that you're seeing on the Hayes Fawcett Twitter account, the graphics of this guy's in there. Those are the make a bid thing, and I'm not sure that Clemson's super involved in that side of it. So I'll look at that, and then Trevor Etienne at running back. You have to be interested if you're Clemson.
It would only be right.
It would.
Yep. No, go ahead.
So, yeah, no, I mean, it would be right. It's one of those that, but also for Clemson fans, that's going to have your reservations on that one. He's going to have his look around. Everyone's going to want him. I think a school like Georgia could be a really good fit and a really good target for him. So there might be some spots that, especially right now, there's some uncertainty. Like, what's the deal with Will Shipley? What's up with Phil Maffa? He's not going to come to play with or behind both of them. Maybe he won't play behind one of them. So, we'll see kind of what they're looking at. David Eziamume is coming in as a freshman from North Cobb, and you look at that position of, hey, this would make sense, but also it's not settled yet. I don't know what they're telling him or what they would tell him, but he's fresh into the portal. So that's one that we're just getting to figure out, what does he feel about Clemson right now? So it's a lot of things happening really quickly, lots of rumors, lots of here's a tie, here's this, here's that. And for me, just trying to keep a list of names and get to know everybody so that if news breaks, we can write and tweet about it.
You actually just answered, I think, one of my questions. I was just about to ask you what you thought about the running back room with Will Shipley potentially leaving, going to the NFL. Phil Maffa, been rumors around him potentially leaving, and then Asiemi coming in the 2024 class. So I wanted to ask about that, your thoughts on that real quick. And then I want to move to defense. I just want to talk about linebacker. I know how good linebacker has been for Clemson. Jeremiah Trotter's going to the NFL draft. They're going to have 5-star Sammy Brown coming in. How does that position group kind of look coming into, well, I don't say next season, but just going into the offseason? Is Clemson kind of targeting anybody out of the portal to kind of help buffer that linebacking core?
Yeah, speed run here. Okay, cool. So running back for me is going to be, I think Will Shipley's gone in some form or fashion. I think it's either NFL draft, which has been his dream, or maybe it's an Andrew Makuba type of situation where he's got something really good elsewhere. And even though he's a multi-year starter at Clemson, hops in the portal, tests the waters. I can't blame him, having to split carries, and this year is kind of up and down for him. If he does leave, he will be missed. Clemson fans love him. He's done a lot for Clemson. So we'll see, but I just don't expect him back. I do expect Phil Maffa back. I would be surprised if anything changed there. I think the draft stock is okay, but definitely back into the draft. It's something that he can improve if he comes into next season as the number one and does what he did this year and continues the momentum against the tough schedule next year that has Georgia at Florida State, Louisville, home versus South Carolina. Those are some of the games that he'd have a chance to improve his stock in on a national scene. So that's what I think in the running back group. I think David's one that fans are going to love to see him early and often because he's had such engagement with the fan base on social media, and he's got a lot of coverage now to his name, and people know to expect a lot from him already, similar to some of the recruits last year that came in with that billing. So he'll get carries. As far as I'm concerned, he'll be someone that fans like to see in the game and like to see around. So that'll be one to watch. I don't see him pushing for a one spot yet, but I think that people will, get to see him play in Clemson next year. So I do expect him to have some sort of an immediacy to his arrival. On the flip side at linebacker, Sammy Brown could be a plug and play. I don't think he comes to Clemson. I don't know this for certain now, but I'm just speculating. I don't think he comes to Clemson if he doesn't know that he's going to get a chance at some serious playing time, and I think that he's got exactly that. The linebacker group, Sammy had such good options all around the country. When he's picking, it had to be such a good fit, and I think part of that concept might have been that Clemson's been pumping out NFL linebackers. Wes Goodwin's been really good with that group and deserves a lot of credit. And Sammy's one that, if he's not a day one starter, he's a player that is going to be a contributor and have a chance to do maybe what Drew Woodaz did a couple of years ago, where comes in and gets some snaps, proves himself, and then takes on a bigger and bigger role as the season goes on. I think a lot of fans would like Sammy to come in and start immediately, but he'll have a chance to compete there. And the linebacker group's not super deep, so it's one that I think does favor a lot of early playing time, especially if Barrett Carter leaves. He's got a chance to be the leader and be the man at Clemson next year, but also he's got a chance to be a millionaire. So looking at the drafts with Barrett Carter, I'm kind of like, the longer it goes, the more I think he might stay. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't announced by now. I'm sure that it's not an easy decision, but that's one that I look at and say, hey, you're probably a mid-round draft pick right now. Like, you could improve your draft stock for sure if you come back. Like, he could be a second rounder. He's got that level to him, but that's a decision that's waiting. And honestly, again, the longer this goes on, the more I say maybe Barrett's going to come back and be the leader and make a good bit of NIL money and continue to be an awesome person and player at Clemson, and eventually try to get that draft stock up to maybe top 50, where I think it really could be.
Certainly. And then now I want to move to the secondary spot, and it's really impressive what I was seeing in some of your content, and just seeing a lot of players just transfer out, Luke. I mean, at the cornerback position, and I think we've seen it towards the end of the season. I was following you, and we seen I would lose their names right now when I
No, you're good. Yeah, Avion Terrell, for example, Khalil Barnes.
Yes. There was another one, Shelton Lewis. I'm sorry,
Shelton
I forgot.
Lewis. Yeah.
Yes, but tell me about them stepping up. Like, it was Georgia Tech game. There was 4 interceptions. I remember that one vividly. I think Lewis had a pick 6. All three of them had an interception. So talk about the emergence of them and how that's kind of benefited, and now, starters and key role players at the cornerback position are now transferring out.
Yeah, you look at a guy like Toriano Pride that came in, and he was a high-level recruit from Missouri. Now he's transferred back home to play at Missouri, and that's one that, for Clemson, in terms of talent acquisition, you love having that kind of depth at a cornerback spot. But also, now in the portal, when you're getting jumped by freshmen, which unfortunately for Toriano was the reality of Avion Terrell coming in, and he looks like he's a starter as a sophomore. Shelton Lewis, if he's not a starter, he'll be on the field a lot for Clemson. And you look at those two jumping in. You look at now Nate Wiggins is leaving, so there's going to be a bit of a battle for who's the alpha corner. Khalil Barnes' emergence at the safety spot. You need multiple safeties. You need to be deep there. But Andrew Makuba, there's some feeling around Clemson that might be a poaching situation of somebody came in and said, hey, if you hop in the portal, there's really good. Don't have any facts to that. But that's one that you look at and you say, wow, if he was going anywhere. The initial reaction from us on our site was, if he was leaving, we thought he was going to the draft, because that is a draftable player, Andrew Makuba. All-American as a freshman, been a little out of position. That's something that might have gone into that transfer. He's been played out of position lately a bit, past couple of years. So you look at those things, but also you look at Clemson fans saying, well, Khalil Barnes is one of the best in the country at safety in terms of forcing turnovers and in terms of freshmen, especially freshman All-American. So you look at what they've done, the corners that have emerged, they'll battle it out for who's the alpha. There's guys like Jaden Lucas that are still there as well. That's a good recruit that will get on the field. Kylan Griffin has a really big chance at safety to show that he's a starter. There's even people talking about Khalil Barnes as an NFL draft guy. In a few months, we were talking about him at North Oconee High School. Literally. So, it's really – Barnes has made that kind of an impact, and he's turned the ball over like crazy. He's graded well from PFF. So there's people already like, hey, I think he's an NFL guy. And these are not conversations that are super, posted on websites, but I think we're going to start to see after the season, way too early NFL draft looks. And there might be mention of his name, and I would mention his name in some of that as well. So the way that they've stepped up, the way that Avion Terrell, everyone talks about his brother, but he's his own player. He's an absolute fireball of energy on the field. When he makes a play, you have no question as to who made the play because his celebration, his energy, he's going crazy. He's the whole deal. Like, it's incredible to watch. Love it. And I think they catch on to that in the secondary. I think he's got a real shot to be the alpha corner. Sheldon Lewis, though, you can't underestimate him. You can't forget about him. Sometimes, it was early on Avion that, people know him because his brother, and Khalil Barnes, people know him because he's making turnovers. And then Sheldon Lewis comes in, and Georgia Tech was targeting the end zone and trying to throw to his side of the field and back-to-back incompletions, and he's continued through the end of the season. Even early on, played against Charleston Southern and had a moment where he almost had a pick and dropped it. And I said, wait a minute, Shelton was in really good position there. Like, he's, holding his own out there already. And I think with him enrolling early, that was something that helped him get off to such a good start and get acclimated. And I think he's seemed pretty comfortable on the field. And that's something that, to me, has stood out. He's settled in. Second half of the season, they've turned him loose. And that group, even with the guys portaling out, which is hard, you lose depth, you lose experience. It's really hard to replace. At DB for Clemson, that's the least concerning spot right now where they've lost players.
Certainly.
Because of that.
Yeah, that obviously has to do with a lot of the freshmen just stepping up and key critical guys making an impact, as you mentioned. So I think that's incredible. Craig has always been high on Khalil Barnes, and to hear that he's kind of being mentioned in potential NFL circles is definitely big time. But in your eyes, Luke, what prospects do you think Clemson is after for the 2025 class that they're kind of trying to wrap up the 2024? We know we got signing day a little less than 2 weeks away officially. So what prospects, as we kind of look and turn the chapter on 24, do you think they're targeting for 25?
Yeah, never too early to look forward in the recruiting world we have today. And the 25 class for Clemson is going to be a pivotal one, especially on the offensive line. They had a really rough go in the 24 class with O-line recruiting. And that's been portal, that's been especially high school recruiting. So the big prize is David Sanders. He's nearby. He's in North Carolina, top 3 player in the country, and right now Clemson is in the mix for him. The coaching change with Matt Luke as well coming in, that's someone that has landed big players. He's a really good recruiter and someone that I think has the experience to come in and say, he's got track record. Clemson's O-line track record's not been great in terms of NFL draft, but Matt Luke has a track record of his own. He's got experience of his own. He's got some of the things that can combat the negative recruiting that people say, hey, don't go to Clemson. This won't work, or this and this and this. Like, he's able to combat some of that because of who he is, and I think that's part of why Clemson really went out and got him. They were, really – that's one for Matt Luke is say, oh, yeah, he's been out of the game for a couple of years and taking care of his family and all that. And Clemson, I think because of it being a family-oriented program and having families on campus and around the facilities and having the coaches' families nearby, I think that helps that with that transition. So one of the things as well, he doesn't have to focus on recruiting 1 million people at a time like you would at some schools. Clemson's very condensed in who they offer. So a guy like David Sanders will be a primary target. I think there's more of a chance of landing him now that Matt Luke is there. So something that I'm not saying he's a Clemson lock or even close to that, but they're in the mix. That's where you want to be. And I think the spring when they have their junior day is going to be pivotal for several of these recruitments, especially for Sanders, as long as he comes, and I would think he would. So that's what I'm looking at for O-line, D-line. You're looking at some guys like, for example, for your fans watching GHSA, Christian Garrett at Prince Avenue Christian is one that Clemson's after on the D-line. They've been in a lot of contact with him. So you look at the state of Georgia, always a pretty big focus. London Merritt on the defensive line, somebody at Woodward Academy that I personally think his play style would fit well at Clemson. He's one that has offers from everybody. But looking through that group, Woodward, really good run this year for them as well in the playoffs. So one of the talented players there. I think quarterback is going to be one that they've already got their quarterback locked in terms of commitment. So that's one where he's a bit of an anchor. Blake Hebert, 4-star quarterback commit. He's going out and started off the class with Gideon Davidson as the early commits. They've got quarterback, running back taken care of, tight end with Logan Brooking already committed down from Savannah, Georgia. So the offensive group is really rolling. I think they've made a really good evaluation in the receiver commit they just added out of Virginia, and Easton Ware on the O-line. So offense is taking care of itself, but outside of offensive line with David Sanders and some of those guys, defense is really the focus of Nick Eason has recruited really well, and Wes Goodwin's recruited well, and just continuing to build some momentum. I think with the defensive backs transferring, they might have to maybe look at some additional defensive backs, if not immediately, in the 25 class. So continuing that influx of talent, and then, yeah, just continuing to move forward with that 25 class and the way that Nick Eason's been awesome. I mean, Amari Adams committed already on the defensive line. I think there's going to be more to come between the D tackle and DN group. But Adams, top player in the state in South Carolina, he was rumored to go to South Carolina for a long time, and then Clemson goes and beats South Carolina somewhere around that game, a little before, a little after. They turned the tide in his recruitment quietly, and then got the top player in the state. So it was kind of a nice 10-day for Clemson fans to go and beat your rival on the road, and then go take the best player in the state that your rival was supposed to be landing. I think there was even a point where I thought Clemson was pretty much out of it, but they have nailed that recruitment. He visited South Carolina, I want to say 9 times, Amari Adams, and then committed to Clemson. So that was one that big win. The class is already coming together. Clemson 25 can get some guys pretty early in the cycle. So now it's just continuing to add pieces on the defensive side. But that group, revolves around Georgia, and there's a lot of good talent here that they'll be after.
For sure. Well, 2 more, Luke, and I'll let you get out of here. One, I want to get your thoughts on the transfer portal in general, right? We're seeing a lot of different things now. I think it was a record, like 3,000 plus kids already in the portal. Just talk a little bit about that. And I think we're seeing even schools, like with the Ohio State situation with Kyle McCord, right? Like, hey, yeah, we appreciate what you did, but, yeah, we're going to move in a different direction. And I think it almost talks to, like, if you think about it, that's almost like NFL. That's like free agency. Like, okay, hey, it was a good 1 year, but we're going to look to move in a different direction. Just talk about both sides of that, Luke. The side of the player, potentially trying to make more money through NIL, and the side of the program, of them trying to find the best fits for them and to be able to continue to play at a high level.
It's really hard. And I think a lot of people up on, like, man, these players are going everywhere, and as soon as the grass is greener and, they hop in the portal, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, you've got coaches that are viewing this as a roster clearing tool that they've never had before, especially new coaches. I mean, Dion obviously with the example, but I feel like I've personally heard several stories of, coach came in and told me to hit the road. And I was like, oh man, that's real. And these are players that we've covered in Georgia, for example, and guys that even if the coach didn't come in, coaches that are saying, hey, you might want to think about the portal. And then you kind of see what that means. And that to me has been the thing of, as a fan, don't think that just because a player hops in the portal, it's because they're money hungry or they can't wait their turn. Like, it's not always that. Sometimes it just makes sense. Sometimes it's a easy thing. You're not getting enough targets. You're buried on a depth chart. You're not getting on with the coaches. You feel like, you need to change. And that's something for me, like, I'm a person that transferred colleges just as a student. So I know it's really hard. I know it's something that can be really beneficial to people. So I try to not be critical of the portal and where it's going. I think some of the decisions are out of their control. I do worry that some guys maybe don't have the best advisors around them, and that's something that's tough for everybody. But hop in the portal and some people never come out, or they don't come out at the Division I level. So it's a really risky thing, and it's something that I look at and say, as it shakes out, I almost feel like this has become a thing where people have to let it play out and then see the good and bad that comes from it. And I hate the fact that that's going to be really hard on some individuals. But the things that I'm looking at are a little more permanence of, could we do some kind of a deal where maybe like baseball, where you go and you play your 3 years, and then after your 3 years, you can go to the league or transfer or move around. And the stuff to me that it looks like it's so hard to build a team in college football. And I worry about the coaches too, of having to recruit your own players on top of everything else you're doing, and having to deal with the collectives and having to deal with the money side. So one of the things that I'm looking at is, I really would like some of the TV revenue to be shared with players. I think we saw Jim Harbaugh, speak to some of that with college football. I think that if you kind of raise the pool to where everybody's getting it, maybe a little money wouldn't lure a player out because they're already doing well where they are. So I look at things like that. I look at the transfer rules right now. I mean, I would like a certain amount of time before you can go, of
More
maybe
stipulation.
1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
A little more rule to it of like, let's set this in stone. Coaches, if they want to leave, people talk about, yeah, coaches leave all the time. Coaches have it in their contract of, if you leave, this is what happens financially. This is how the ties are severed at this point in time. Like, I was reading through some of Mike Elko's stuff that was posted on Texas A&M of, if he leaves early, this is what happens. If we fire you early, this is what happens. And for players, I would like to see a little more of that, of some kind of here's the deal. If you make this move, or if we make this move, here's what happens. And we don't have enough rules around that in the portal. It's something that I can be one for trying something unregulated or different, but I think this is not working. I think the 3,000 plus people in the portal, whether it's from the coaches or the players themselves, I think most of it's the players themselves, which is totally fine, their call. But this is not good for the sport. This is why the NFL doesn't operate this way. It's not good business. So lots of rules, and maybe even eventually we get to more collective bargaining to where both sides have a legitimate seat at the table. So I think revenue sharing, collective bargaining, and some kind of you can't transfer like crazy to where there's some kind of a rule. Those are the 3 things that I would look to. But obviously those are ideals. Those are things that take a lot of time to be put in place. So I don't really expect too much to happen with that.
Certainly, yeah. I think you bring up some great points on that, Luke. And I've just been curious. I know you're big in covering college football, so I've been curious to like how all that works and your just viewpoint on it, because it makes a lot of sense, the points you brought up, and hopefully we can see a little bit. And I think the same way. I think there should be some kind of stipulation, a year, 2 years, or something. You shouldn't just be able to transfer, in my opinion, only one semester in. Like, I think there needs to be a little bit of stipulation there for the players, obviously. But last question, Luke, you're one of my good friends in the industry that I've met. You've given me good advice that I've taken and put to different things, and I take kind of close to heart. So just what would be your advice? Like, right, you're still in school, you're balancing everything, but you are a big name, one of the big names, I think, in the recruiting world and in the college football world. So what would just be your advice to others that want to get in this industry? It's not an easy industry to get in. We both know that. But just what would be your advice to them to be able to get to where you are and be able to be kind of a trusted source for not only fans or communities or even the coaches, but also for players and everybody around the world?
Yeah, thank you, Najeh. I appreciate the kind words. And 2 things to me that I really like to emphasize are social media, number 1, and then being social, number 2. I guess it's a similar vibe. So one of the things is getting to events. There were times where I was not even credentialed for events. Like, I've always wanted to go to SEC Media Days, but even now covering the ACC, I'm not credentialed for SEC Media Days because I don't cover an SEC team. I'll show up, and I did this in 2022, showed up, met one of my friends downtown, and then we just walked in, and not past anywhere that was credentialed, but walked into the fan zone. And we're talking to fans, and I was meeting the Tennessee fans and the Texas A&M fans and all these people. And then all of a sudden, the players and coaches are walking by. I say, oh, wow, this is cool. Like, who else is here? And then media members are walking by. So then I'm going up, and I'm like, wait, there's Paul Feinbaum. Let me go meet Paul Feinbaum. So I go and introduce myself. And then it's, constantly looking for, even if you're not credentialed, because there's tons of times where I've been denied for credentials or whatever, and I've still shown up, and I haven't broken any rules. I'm sitting in the fan section, but just because you're a fan or in the fan spot doesn't mean that you can't meet people. So meeting Paul Feinbaum and Greg McElroy and people, that are around, and meeting people from On3 that walk through, like, oh, hey, I know this person. Do you know them? And then kind of finding a way to network. And I've made multiple connections at events where I haven't been credentialed for, and those things have really helped build my network. And we follow each other on social media and keep up, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you meet a guy that covers Oregon, and there's an Oregon player in the portal, and maybe Clemson's looking at him, and now I have a person I can talk to, and vice versa. So that's one of the things to me of being credentialed is hard. You got to be with an outlet. Getting with an outlet can be hard, but you can show up and network with people even without that. There's one of my good friends has done that by a friend that knew a media person, and he just came along with him and met a bunch of people, and now he's also covering Clemson. So I've seen that work, being social, making sure that when you are credentialed, you talk to everybody. For example, like Najeh, when we're on the sideline, I think it was a Grayson Brookwood game last year. Like, I'm finding my way around, and I think we really started talking then. And that was one of the things that if I hadn't met you, that wouldn't have been fun at all. So I'm glad that we did that. But because we're working around the sideline and you're receptive to that, so you're really easy to talk to, as you've seen here. I've probably talked plenty, but so that kind of thing to me is some of my advice for younger people, but also social media. Like, you gotta have a brand. If you're a really good reporter and only have 400 followers, I really think you're hamstringing yourself. And I think Najee, like, seeing your following double and triple and seeing you put so much emphasis on it, I'm looking at this like Najee's next up. Like, I've been telling people, I'm like, you got this, and I know you know that. So that's one of the things of, even if you only have a few hundred, I know you can speak to growth and you can speak to some of that. Like, you have to be building a brand, posting where you are, what you're doing, but don't make it about you. Make it about what you're covering. And that's the biggest thing that I look at. Yeah, make everything about someone else if you can, covering players, covering coaches, covering recruits. All of a sudden, you're at an event and then Torrey Smith is there and now you're shooting photos of a Super Bowl champion, and maybe you can get an interview and try to ask questions that will provide insight to fans. Always, like, it's cool for us to meet people or interview people, but also knowing, like, what would a fan want to know about Roddy White right now, for example? You see him on the sidelines at Peachtree Ridge, like, or even if you're covering college or covering the NFL, or what would they want to know? And then you're creating meaningful content, and maybe that person retweets it. And because you had the fans in mind, all the fans that follow them are seeing this, they're liking it, they're following you, and then your brand is building. And just do it consistently. Post every day if you can. If you can't do it every day, at least be regular in some capacity. Cover events like crazy. I think, like, for me, cover an event, you want to get at least 20 pieces of content out of it. Even if it's some of it at the end is like, okay, this isn't doing very well, just keep going. Keep posting, keep putting it out, captions, experiment, try things. But social media for me was the way in. Most of the freelance jobs I've gotten, most of the reporting jobs I've gotten, people have seen that I'm already doing it. I'm already covering it on social media or covering it on my own website. And they say, okay, wait, come do it for us. And that's where you get to talking. So those are some of the ways to get in. I mean, same thing for broadcasting. I tell people, if you want to broadcast, show up and volunteer. Like, I was a media operations assistant at Georgia Tech for 2 years of home games. And I handed out stat sheets to all the reporters and all the commentators, and eventually got to spot for the commentators because they needed somebody last second. And then once I'm spotting, they're giving me advice, and I take the advice and put it forward. So sometimes it's not even doing the job you want, but just doing whatever you can to get there, do it for free. Like, I tell people, if you really want it, you'll probably get to it. And I think, like, Najeh, you can speak to that. Like, you really want it. You've come really far, and I think you're going to come a lot further too. You're doing really well.
I appreciate that, Luke, man. So if you guys don't know, this is Luke Winstel, Clemson insider, broadcaster, does ESPN Plus for Mercer as well. Just a great guy all around, man. And as you guys just heard, you can play this back over and over again. Some really great advice. Definitely not an easy industry, but I've learned a lot from him. And the crazy part is, Luke, you're younger than me. So that just goes to show you age doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
It's whatever, knowledge you can kind of glean from them. It could be really, really, really vital as well. So I've learned a lot from Luke. Keep learning from him and keep passing the torch. And just appreciate you coming on. I know it was a jam-packed session, but you gave some great advice, some great insight into Clemson and into the GHSA. So really appreciate you coming on, Luke, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Always good to talk with you, and good luck with everything. I'm sure I'll see you next week at these state championship games.
Yes, sir. I'll see you then, man, and thanks again.
Sweet.
All right, so guys, there goes Luke Winstel. Go follow him. We had his Twitter handle linked below at Luke Winstel. So go follow him, man. Really has some good advice. One of those people you definitely want to know in the industry. But we're going to take a quick short break, do some tail of the tape, and then conclude with the top 10 headlines and close out the show.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off. Safety violation. Unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
Sure thing. We've got you covered.
All right, guys, welcome back. Appreciate the comment section as well. Jimmy Cash, Dylan Clearfield as well from Clearfield Media. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And, yeah, you're right, Jimmy, especially in this comment, just the lack of use of portal last season. Maybe we'll see Dabble potentially change his ways a little bit and find a different way to kind of be able to get guys to come in. So appreciate you guys tuning in as well. Will be an interesting storyline to follow, man. But we're going to keep going with the show and go ahead and go to just a quick update. I want to talk about Alabama football. We don't really talk about it a lot, but it is in the southeastern. So some big things going on there. So we'll talk about that real quick and then do tell of the tape. So Alabama is actually going to introduce a bill for NIL on the high school level. So I think this is big time to announce. We've seen GHSA just announce this bill earlier in the fall, but now it is coming to Alabama. So basically an Alabama state representative, according to the article on al.com, has filed a bill that would allow high school athletes to make money off their image. The legislation is HB 25, sponsored by Representative Jeremy Gray. Would be a name, image, and likeness bill for high school student athletes. The bill is limited to the athlete and does not allow the use of marks, including a school logo, school name, school mascot, or trademark logo, or acronym of an athletic association, along some other restrictions. So it says Alabama had a state name, image, and likeness law since 2021, one that was revised in 2022 after it was deemed stricter restrictions according to the NCAA. So I think this is big time, and according to the Hill, at least 30 states and Washington, D.C. have legislation that allows high school students to make money off their name and image. So, again, I think that's big, especially for students out in Alabama. Definitely wanted to bring this up. We've seen what happened in Georgia with it, and it's just going to allow, those primetime athletes, the 3 stars, the 4 stars, the 5 stars, just an ability to be able to make a little bit of money off your name, image, and likeness, something I really like. We've seen some major athletes in Georgia. Tyler Atkinson landed an NIL deal, including Juju as well, Juju Lewis from Carrollton. So I think this is big time. This was reported today by al.com, and then their Twitter handle, you guys can go follow them, al.com, h.s.sports. So go give them a follow on Twitter. That's where I got this from. And I got to recap the game from last night. Man, what a game. Number 1 team in Alabama, Thompson, lost to Central Phoenix City last night. Incredible game between them two. Heavily favored Thompson. And the crazy thing about Thompson is they've been in the state championships, I believe, for 6 straight years. They had a 4-year run as the 7A state championships. So incredible run from them. Freshman phenom Trent Seaborn had a really good game. 2 touchdowns in the game for Thompson. And like I said, the Warriors are playing in their 6th straight Class A 7A title game. So pivotal game. Cam Coleman, the Auburn commit, who was recently flipped from Texas A&M, he had a big touchdown to cling to a 1-point lead after they had got close with a Seaborn touchdown. They tried to go for 2, couldn't get it. And that was like towards the end of the game, and then they ran out the clock with 2 first downs. But the key play was they were only up 1 against them. They were able to extend their lead with a Cam Coleman big-time touchdown in that game to kind of secure and go up. And their defense got the stops late and were able to win. So that's a big win for them. Central Phoenix City, they capped a 13-0 season and gave the school its 3rd title and 2nd since 2018. So shout out to them. Just want to give a little update on Alabama. That was incredible. That game was talked about a lot in the recruiting world between those 2 teams. A lot of Alabama commits on the roster as well for Central Phoenix City, and also a lot of big recruits on Thompson as well. And like I said, Thompson's been one of the best teams in Alabama on the high school level, and their reign finally comes to an end. So great win for them. So that's all I got there. We're going to go ahead and roll a little bit of tell of the tape with 2 players. First, quarterback from Texas, Colleyville, Texas, Luke Ullrich. Love his ability to extend plays, a dual threat, plays all over the field, and can you really use him anywhere. But we're going to break down a little bit of his tape and then talk about Starr's Mill's quarterback, Logan Inagawa from Starr's Mill. All right, here we go. So you can see right there, 3,528 yards, 49 touchdowns, 67% completion rate, 2,674 yards. As you can see, too, he runs the ball 854 yards and 13 touchdowns. But love this play right here. You're going to see him be able to kind of get in the spot. The pressure's going to come up real quick against him. Did an instant replay right there. Boom, pressure's in his face, but to be able to throw it in that tight window, really good throw right there from Luke. So really impressive right here. And then boom, you're going to see him avoid the rush. Look at him use his legs right there. Look at this highlight play. Woo! Look at that hurdle, man. I'm going to have you play that back, Craig. I mean, this is just incredible athleticism. Avoids the defender right there. So here he goes. Right here. The running back's supposed to pick him up. He doesn't. Does a good job escaping out of that. And look at this. How many quarterbacks you know is going to do this right here? Come on, guys. Let's be serious. Look at them. 2 people. It's 2 people.
That was 4th down.
Yes. 4th down, 2 people. Look at him dive over both. That is next level. Come on, man. That's next level, man. Love looking at that right there. Here's right here. You're just going to see a nice throw right across the middle of the field. Very accurate throw. Here's right here. Look where he puts the ball. Great ball placement right there. Only where receiver can get it. Hits him in stride. Allows him to get the touchdown. Right here, he's going to see a QB design run. Well blocked up. Boom. Look at that cut. Woo. Look at put that foot in the ground. Love to see that right there. Here is again. Good job right there. Just holding the defender. Placing in a tight window. Double coverage. Here's boom. Looking. Wait. And then look. Ability to extend the play. Look at this right here. I mean, incredible. Puts that ball on the line. Only when the receiver can get it. I mean, that's not easy to do. You're throwing off the run. And then very accurate at that. So, cover right here. Here you see it again. Boom. Look where he places the football. Woo. Only where the receiver can get it. Nice throw on the sideline. Same thing right here. Boom. Tight coverage, as you can see. But puts it only in the spot the receiver can get it. And here, my favorite part. Look at the running game. Boom. That's 1 missed tackle. Look at him lower the shoulder. Oh, my goodness. Woo. Man, that right there is special. Look at it one more time. Appreciate you, Craig, going back. Look at this. Look at him later. Boom. Boom. That's a quarterback now, laying that kind of impact. All right, right here, you can see it. Great job hitting to the sideline, getting it out quick. Here comes the pressure. Look at him evade it. Look at this move. Boom. Make him miss an open field. Look, turn that into a touchdown. That's all him. I mean, there's nothing there. Just making a play with your legs, turn it into a big game. Right here, getting flushed out again. Look at him keep his eyes downfield. Look at that throw. Oof. Goodness, man. You tell me he can't play somewhere on a Group 5 or D1 program? Come on, man. Boom. Look at that move he puts on the defender right there. Look at that. That is incredible. Craig, I'm going to have you roll that back. The fact that he kept his balance here, look, makes that defender miss. I'm going to roll it one more time. Okay, look at this. Boom, looking nothing there. Getting pressured. Don't matter. Look at this move in the open field. Boom, make him miss. I'm getting spun down. Right here. Look at him keep his feet going. I'm not going down. Make him miss. Lower the shoulder. I mean, yeah, that right there. Very, very special player. Right here, you're going to see him out the pocket. Boom, another accurate throw. Puts it on the line. QB design run. Makes him miss. Boom. You know what's going to happen. Turn it right up the field. Use that electric speed. Turn it into a touchdown. Here we go. Boom. Right over the middle. Nice accurate throw. Once again, you see the throws are led in stride. Let your playmaker get the ball in the open field. Turn it into a big game. Big time throw right there. Boom. Low read option. Boom. Look how accurate. Woo. Perfect throw right there. Same thing. QB design run. Look, I'm throwing the Jets. Just pure speed. Not going to catch him. Big time play right there, man. Yeah. They got a player. And look at this throw. Sideline, only where receiver can get it. Good ball placement. Very accurate. Boom, look. Nothing here, Craig. Look at that. I mean, the fact that you turn that into a 4-yard gain and there's nothing there, I mean, come on, man. Boom, look at break that tackle. Look, turn on the Jets. And I talked to him a little bit. Apparently, he plays quarterback, running back, also plays, I think, free safety as well. So, just does a little bit of everything. I mean, just an electric player. Big time out of Colleyville, Texas. Really was impressed with his film. But, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I think we did a playback right here. But, I mean, just incredible play. I mean, he does a whole bunch of things well. Right here, you're going to see him out of the slot. And boom. I mean, you see the versatility right there. Boom. And this is him as a playmaker. So, like you said, could do a little bit of everything. Running the ball. Boom. Look at that cut inside. Incredible play. Same thing right here. Gonna pitch it to him. Get him to an open space. Let him do his thing. Ooh. goodness. Look at him lay it again. Boom, look at him. Make a move on him. Boom, look what he does to the defender. I mean, you don't see quarterbacks do that every day. You just don't. So, I mean, really impressive film. Like I said, he can do a little bit of everything. I just say all-around athlete, man. I don't. If you don't want to play quarterback on the next level, I mean, he can play DB, play wide receiver. I mean, he's just a playmaker on both sides. I mean, I think his film is incredible. Really special player. Appreciate him sending the film over and tagging me, and I appreciate you allowing me to break it down, man. But that was incredible. Could throw the ball, fit it in tight windows. Playmaker on the outside. Just do a little bit of everything well. So I was really impressed. We're going to roll one more to conclude the tail of the tape, and then we're going to conclude with the headlines for the weekend. So got Logan Inagawa from Starr's Mill, plays for Fayetteville. So let's roll his tape. Really impressive season. They made it all the way to the semifinals. Right here you can see just good, clean pocket right there. Nice throw. Leading his receiver in stride. Boom, here he is, just waiting. Nice throw on the outer boundary of the receiver right there, just avoiding the pressure. Another nice deep ball. Only where his receiver can get it. Okay, this is against Noonan. Here he is right here. Boom, getting pressure. Look where he lays the throw. Only where his receiver can get it. Again, on the outer part of where the receiver is. And right here you're going to see a little bit of a run. Boom, good job right there. Getting out of the pack right there. Not a lot of lanes, but look at him turning on the jets. Turning into a very, very big play. I can hear it's on 4th down. Look at the read option again. You know, just showing his ability to be able to read it well. Turn into a big A. This is 4th down right here. Nothing's there. Look at him kind of just show that pocket awareness. Find his receiver, throw a good little jump ball. Let him go get it. Same thing. Good job reading the read option. Blocked up well. Running right through the middle of the defense. Incredible run right there. Boom. Same thing. Look at him spin off. Keep spinning for the touchdown. I think we did an instant replay right here on it. So, wanted to break this down a little bit more. But nice motion. You're going to see it right here. Boom. So, you got to read that DE right there. Break that tackle. Breaks the middle linebacker's tackle. And it spins off the safety's tackle, turning into a touchdown. Not easy to do. Right here, just a nice throw. I mean, double coverage, but very, very accurate. Getting the ball out quick, reading the defense. Let your playmaker do what he do in the open field. Same thing right here. Tight window. I mean, underrated how tight of a window that is. But you get it in between both defenders. Right here, rolling to the right. Throwing off the run. Good placement. And the reason I slowed that down was if he throws too far inside, that's a pick. So he has to throw it on the outside near the sideline so the receiver can get it. And then right there, you see him go over top, leap over for the touchdown. Good job moving to his left right here. Another accurate throw on the sideline. Keep the chains moving. Big 3rd down right here. Here's pressure. Guys coming. You're going to keep the play alive. Boom. Accurate throw. Only where his receiver can get it. So good job under pressure. Good pocket awareness so far. Another read option using his legs. Boom. Look what he turns that into. Big game right there. Slow this part down. Okay, I'm going to have you go back to that, Craig. I think reason I was impressed with this play right here. Okay, so you're going to see the edge crash down. So really it's a two-thing man right here you can go. So you can go to the receiver right there that's playing at the X. But he does a good job right here, I think, of selling it. Acting like he's going to throw the bubble screen and hit to the receiver over the middle of the field in another tight window. So you're going to see it. Boom. Look at him fake right there like he's going to do the bubble screen. Boom. And then fill the defense. Hold the linebacker just enough to go over the middle of the field. Great play right there. Holding the defender. Big 3rd down right here. Rolling to his left. Nothing's there. Look at him go take off. Make a big play with his legs. 1st down. And the same thing right here. See? Bouncing off tackles. Taking multiple to bring him down. Still going. Still running. Okay, again, and I'm going to have you play this one more time, Craig, on this one. Just, again, another tight window. Boom. Pause it right there. So, again, he has to throw this high because the safety's right in the middle of the field. You see how they're playing. Looks like a cover 3, but the safety knows this is going to number 5. right? So he does a good job getting it out quick, but getting it high enough. If it's too low, it's a pick six. There's nobody else there you can see. He's going to turn it into a pick six. But it's a good job throwing it high, getting it to only receiver can get it. Boom, right here. Here comes the safety. That's a pick. Look where he throws. Only way where he can get it. Receiver does a good job adjusting, coming down with the catch. That's pretty big time. And then boom, pressure's coming. Good job getting it out, hitting his receiver. Phenomenal play right there. Boom, here, same thing. Look at him roll out. Throw it on the line. Big time throw. Here he's rolling to his right, looking downfield. Boom, right there on the sideline. Big time throw. And I think this is the last one right here. Good job getting it out quick, reading the defense, making the throw. So I think what stood out about his tape was just ability to fit it in tight windows as well, ability to extend plays, use his legs as well. And then, like I said, some of those windows are tight. Sometimes you'll see the coverage will be better than the routes that you have run. So that's when those pinpoint throws really, really matter. And I think you're seeing that throughout his tape and him being able to do that. His ability not to be able to go down on the first contact. He's very young. And they play some meaningful football out there out in Starr's Mill, right? They made it really deep. I had took them to beat Perry. They unfortunately came up with a loss, but the kid can play. That was just his mid-season film. I'm sure he's going to have postseason film as well. But, I mean, guys, the fact that they beat Craig, a really good Central Carrollton team that I know you're high on, I'm very high on, a 35-yarder Hail Mary, just to be able to advance them, I think says a lot. And the ability of his arm and his ability to throw up those deep balls. So he has a bright future. He's going to be a lot of fun. And can't wait to see him continue going forward. But no more breaks. We're going to jump into top 10 headlines to close out the show for today. We're going to start with number one. This is also presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. But number one, got to give some love to Ace Bailey. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Hoops, Craig, but that kid's a different breed, man. He just went off for a 41-piece and 26 rebounds against Pebblebrook. I mean, that stat line is just incredible. And what I was impressed with was just the ability to get to his spots. And you know, sometimes you'll see superstars, they try to rush to get the ball up, or they try to rush to get their shot. I mean, he's just literally just catching the ball, going, shooting it. It's just like a rhythm. It's effortless rhythm. Like, he knows he's the best player, but he's not like, oh, get me the darn ball. Like, I want the darn ball. No. It's going through the natural flow of the offense. He's getting to his spots. And, I mean, he's just outstanding. I mean, I see why he's such a heavily recruited player. And he can block shots, get buckets, can drive it. I mean, he's an exceptional talent. And another big thing out of this, too, New Jersey's up. I mean, you just got the commitment from Dylan Harper, number 2 player in the 2024 class, also just committed to Rutgers. So you got Dylan Harper and you got Ace Bailey on the same team next year for Rutgers. I think they're going to be a different breed. The very elite talent they're getting, now it's just going to be about coaching and getting it going with that. And what I love what's going on right now, and I talked to Milton's head coach earlier this week, is that we're getting college players, we're getting high-level high school players to stay and go to college. I think to a degree, the game is diminished a little bit on the college level because, you know, OTE and you got G League, but now we're seeing the top players are going back to colleges. Got Cooper Flagg next year. He's going to be, I think he committed to Duke. But just seeing the top talent be able to go to school and us being able to see it, I think it's going to make the tournament better. It's going to make the championships better. And it's going to make the conference championships better as well. So they're going to be fun to watch. That's my number one. Number two, got to give a shout out to Reese Fountain. I mentioned him earlier, but receiving an offer from East Tennessee. So I actually made this yesterday, but I have to update it now. He's officially committed to East Tennessee State. So shout out to him, a D1 program. I know that has to be exciting for him and his family. Passes over 11,000 yards, over 100-plus touchdowns in his career. 41-7 as a starter. So he gets my number two. Shout out to Reese Fountain on an incredible career. Number three, got to get some love to star point guard Josh Dixon of Milton. Again, talk to their coach. He surpassed 1,000 career points, had a 25-point effort against Forsyth Central, an incredible player. And like his head coach said, Alan Whitehart, the ball starts and it stops with him. So he's their main scorer. They got a nice player, Anthony Gauss, out of Christian Brothers, Missouri, that complements each other well. But Josh Dixon is a star point guard. And actually, he's coming back. Incredible to see as well. He had a torn calf muscle last year that kind of derailed them a little bit. And I did not know Milton was as high as number 21 nationally until they kind of fell off and went 3-7. He's one of the reasons why he ended up getting hurt. They were 16-3 at one point. So an incredible player, and shout out to him for passing 1,000 points. Number four, got to give some love to Lomas Cade from Sequoia. He dropped 36 points in a win Tuesday night and a school record 12 threes in their big win against River Ridge. So that's getting it done. Got to give him some love out of Sequoia. Big time win for that program. Big time win for Lomas Code and setting the school record, 12 threes in a game. You don't see that a lot. You usually see that. I think Steph Curry set that record in the NBA years ago, but you don't see 12 threes in a game too often. So he had it going. Got to give him a shout out as well. Number 5, another shout out to Miguel Hanna on winning Region 6 Offensive Player of the Year for Haydenville Charter. He had 589 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. So shout out to him on an incredible season and winning Region 6 Offensive Player of the Year. Not easy to do. Number 6, got to give some love to Mike Matthews, Tennessee commit. He's going to play in the Under Armour All-American game in Orlando for New Year's. So only a select few kids are able to go to events like this. So he had, I thought, a really good senior year. I know he fell short of his goal. Talked to him at our Corky Kell luncheon when we revealed the AJ Super 11, and his goal was to hit 1,000 yards. It was, and came up a little bit short, but I thought he did all he could on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. Finished his season with 751 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns in his senior year, and committed to Tennessee. And as I mentioned with Luke, only 2 weeks away from signing day. So that'll be a lot of fun. I remember we did it last year and we had to update it. But Craig, I want to let you know I did get a jump start, so it's going to be a lot easier this year. I have over like 200 entries, so won't have to worry about that and find everything. It'll really just be updating any flips or stuff like that. So no worries there. All right, number 7, I got to give some love to obviously Coach Downs, who I know real well, and his son, former Mill Creek Starr. And Craig brought it up a bunch of times last year, and he said the most ready-made college player. And Craig is right. We're seeing it right now with Caleb Downs, right? He's doing big things on the college level. He's been a big-time player for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I know he's been mentioned in a lot of NFL circles. He just was named SEC Freshman of the Year. So that goes to show you in his first year with the Crimson Tide just how spectacular he's been. And now he's going to get to play for a national title for the Crimson Tide this year. That got to be very, very exciting for him. But wanted to give him some love. That's not easy to do, to be able to go from playing high-level football in high school and to go and kind of replicate that in your freshman season. Usually takes a couple years. Not for Caleb. And Craig brought up a great point. The most ready-made, and Craig is 100% right. We're seeing that now and how he's playing. So he's going to be fun to watch in the college football playoff. Number 8, Cheer State Championships will be this weekend at Georgia State University Convocation Center. Will be held December 8th, 2023 at Georgia State University. Admission is $15 per person. Divisions will be Class A Division 1, Class A Division 2, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, and 7A. And dance. Teams will compete in areas they use to lead a crowd at a game day, on game day, at football or a basketball game. There are 3 segments to this that will be judged: cheer, a band chant, and also fight song. So shout out to them for that. Number 9. Got some big news, Craig. Do not be surprised. I've been saying it, and I've talked to some Auburn commits, namely Malcolm Simmons, and they are pushing hard for him to come to the program. He's originally, right now, he's committed to Florida State. I think you know who I'm talking about, KJ Bolden. Don't be shocked, man, if he flips to Auburn. And the reason I say that is he took an official visit to Auburn over the weekend. They just visited him with the in-home visit yesterday. I'm just saying, I think he's pretty high on the program, and I wouldn't be surprised. I know everybody's like, well, why would he want to go to Auburn? They're 6-6. But I think recently, especially with Hugh Freeze, they're nailing their recruiting right now. I would not be shocked if he potentially flips and he goes to Auburn. So that's a storyline to watch. Like I said, with only 2 weeks left until signing day, don't be surprised. We also have like signing day flips as well. So I'm just saying, he looked like he was having a good time. I know he's locked in with Coach Mike Norvell. Florida State had an incredible season. Unfortunately, they won't be in the college football playoff. But don't be shocked if KJ Bolden, their top recruit, ends up flipping. He's very high. Like I said, 2 visits from the program in the past couple of days. That's something to monitor. All right, number 10 to close the show. Battle in the Peach and Double Trouble Invitational takes place this Friday and Saturday. We'll have some incredible talent, some of the best in the country in basketball. This is hoops. It's going to be at Marietta High School. Got prolific prep #1 player AJ Diambasta, who's the #1 player in 2025 class. You got Caleb Wilson from Highly Innocents. Tyler Jordan, who's a top 50 prospect in the country in the 2025 class as well, that plays for Shiloh. J.R. Leonard from Riverwood. Kai Fleming from Osborne, and Makai Ragland from Berkmar. So many elite players and elite programs going to be at Willard this weekend. Will be a lot of fun. If you have nothing to do, check that out. But that's all I got. Appreciate Craig producing the show today. I know it was a very, very long one, but a lot of fun, very, very informative. And everybody, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Will be a lot of fun to watch some football, some NFL football this weekend. And we'll be back for more tomorrow with Craig. And Craig said he's going to have on Manchester. So check out that interview. Manchester's having a phenomenal run. Their state championship matchup will be tough, but they've been doing a good job. Watch that defensive line in the state championships next week. Justice Terry, and they got a really good defensive line. Justice Terry, I think, is a 4-star player in the 2025 class. So that'll be a lot of fun. That's all I got. Craig will be back with a drive for the GHSA state title tomorrow. Tune in for that, and thank you for watching the show today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and comment some questions you want us to answer on Craig's show on Friday and when we come back together on Tuesday. That's all I got. Have a good weekend. Peace.